So good morning, good afternoon, all of you for the recap webinar of VaultSpeed NEXT Boston. Welcome all. Today, we know you joined to hear the summary of what we discussed back in October in Boston and also to see the live demo. So Jonas is going to take care of most of today's session. But before we do that, I will give a short positioning of VaultSpeed. So the world is changing very rapidly. Economies are upgrading, technology stacks and AI is around. And what we have found is that the data teams are working with a tech stack that is no longer suited to cope with the speed of change that we see today. So here on the screen, you recognize the medallion architecture. You all know it probably. It's also the only thing that the big data platform vendors agree upon, Microsoft, Databricks, Snowflake, and the others, is that this medallion architecture is the best suited for structured data. And so you can see on the left hand the different sources that you have, and then the data will flow from the left to the right, bronze, silver, gold. And if we take a look at the silver layer, if we could go one slide back, please. If we look at the silver layer, we see that there the recommendation is to go with the data vault methodology that is centered around hubs, links, and satellites, and that the gold layer, the recommendation is to go with star schemas and dimensional modeling. And so VaultSpeed is bringing and helping to deliver a paradigm shift in data engineering. So what is the issue with the medallion architecture at scale? What we have found is that data teams are spending 80% of their time and efforts on keeping the data pipelines to work. So they have to troubleshoot them, update them, test them, and what have you. And very little time is left for delivering new data products for the business. And this is what VaultSpeed, of course, wants to change. We want to give you more time to deliver these new data products. So again, we will focus on the medallion architecture. And so the reason and how we help you automating 80% of setting up this reference architecture. The reason why in the silver layer data vault is recommended are threefold. One is that the data vault methodology is very well suited for ensuring data integrity. You will never lose a single record. And this is important to preserve the full history and auditability of your data stack. The second reason why Data Vault is very attractive is that Data Vault is rule-based and as a consequence, highly automatable. It easily adapts to change, either in business requirements, physical data sources, and as we know, the world and the business is in constant change. So if you have a new ERP system, an upgrade of a marketing platform, schema changes with a new SaaS version, VaultSpeed will adjust automatically for you. So we take away that burden. And then the third reason why Silver and Data Vault go very well together is for technical performance reasons. So it is RAID optimized. So in other words, you can load billions of records in the silver layer, in the vault, quickly and reliably. So then we move to the right-hand side to the gold layer, where you see the dimensional modeling as the preferred approach, and that we also help you supporting and automating. So why is dimensional modeling star schemas recommended? For the business users, it's easy to understand whether they have a BI dashboard where they want to query, whether there is a new Gen AI initiative. It's easy for them to understand their business, the actionable business insights to get them out. And then lastly, it is also, again, the technical performance, it is optimized for read performance. So with VaultSpeed, We will automate your data journey from bronze to silver to gold and reducing the manual tasks. Now, there's another finding that we had at VaultSpeed, and that is that we have been doing ELT wrong for many years. We and most people in the industry start with the data sources. You first extract, then you either load or transform, and then you move onwards. So what we have changed is to take a data model driven approach. So we will combine the best of two worlds of a visual ETL tool with the code automation technologies that are out there. And so if we move to the next slide, so on the left-hand side, you would see a traditional waterfall approach where you first would gather the requirements, build the specs, and then go on into testing and coding and deploying. And that is taking a lot of time. Nowadays, business users, they want to get quick feedback, iterate, and etc. So it's more of a CI/CD type of working. And we are supporting this disciplined agile approach in the data space. Now, how do we do that? Is because we take a different starting point. So we flip the logic of not starting bottom up at the sources, but we start with a conceptual data model. And the reason why we do that is because by doing this, we separate the physical from the logical world. So we start with a conceptual business model. On the screen, you see an insurance example, and you instantly recognize this. This is about customers, beneficiaries, claims, coverages, and policies. And we start from this, so top down, and then we will go into the data sources and harvest the metadata to generate the mappings, transformations, and data pipelines. So, and by separating the business logic from the physical data layers, we can guarantee this true automation and consistency at scale. So, customers who go with VaultSpeed and this medallion architecture and our automation are now capable of delivering any new data product in less than 2 sprints. So to put this maybe in perspective and to wrap up the introduction and positioning, Gartner estimates that an average enterprise has 112 data sources, big and small, internal data sources, external data sets, and what have you, that they try to harmonize, integrate, and then deliver in this architecture. So if you have the averages of Gartner, 112 data sources, that means that you need to do 40,000 manual mappings. Now, I don't know about you, but if I have to click 40,000 times, I will make mistakes. It will take me a lot of time to do that accurately, to deliver. And lastly, at least for myself, I would never ever want to do that again. So, and with our approach, starting top down with the conceptual model and then taking you through the medallion architecture, we eliminate that process. So, and again, we free up time, capacity, and resources for delivering more data products with more accuracy and quality and way faster. So with this positioning, I will hand over to Jonas. Thank you.
And maybe it's time for some highlights and learnings. And hi to all who are present here, but some highlights and learnings of an event that we did. When was it, Falke? End of September, beginning of October in Boston, where we had a few very interesting speakers. And today's a bit also about recapping some of the presentations we saw in Boston at the MIT premises. Because there was some interesting findings, and I was asked before this webinar to come up with a few of the key things that I learned or that I thought were interesting from the presentations of the people who were there, who are a few of our customers, a few partners, and some industry experts on AI. And I think the first, and by the way, I'm sorry for the slides, Falke, but it seems like someone is clicking here with me. I don't know what's happening. So please bear with me. But the first presentation was from Steve, and Steve he's an expert in the domain of AI. I think some of the people who were there, he gave a very interesting presentation. But one of the elements that I thought were interesting from what he had to say is that he questioned the fact that AI can really be a competitive advantage. Maybe it's a competitive advantage for customers or companies that are using it today compared to others who are maybe not that invested yet in using AI for their business outcomes. But at a given point, at a given date, we will all be using it, right? So if we then all use the same models, or we base our work or the productivity benefits that we gain from AI, if we base it on the same core model providers that you have out there, OpenAI, Google, what have you, then there's not really a competitive advantage in that. And you could then argue, okay, so if the foundational models that we are all using today, or I think most of us are using today, if they can't provide us that competitive advantage, then maybe it's very interesting to build my own model, right? But there he argued that, building your own model at this point is still very expensive. He gave the example of Bloomberg, who built a model, cost them around $10 million. And the model itself had, and that's a bit more technical, I guess. I'm not an expert on it, but they had 50 billion parameters, and that's comparable to what it's a little bit less than what the equivalent of the human brain would be able to do, right? And if you look at some of the foundational models out there today, the ones that are easily available to all of us, they have a lot more, so they are a lot better. And the idea is then, no, you should probably not start building your own model just yet. You should use a foundational model for now, but then the way to make that model more competitive to the same model that everyone else is using is by adding your data and by fine-tuning it and by using RAG, retrieval augmented generation. So he had some ideas on how to do it, on how to do the fine-tuning using foundational models that are available, specializing and training it with company data, and using RAG, internal data sets to train these models. So that was for me the interesting outcome of what Steve had to say. Second presentation was by a customer of ours, and they explained in a lot of detail how a data vault solution moved them to the next level, basically from the legacy data warehouse that they had in place, right? Some of the things they had been doing weren't really working for them, and all the scalability and standardization that Data Vault has brought them are really bringing them to that next level. Also in the levels of delivery, the speed of delivery that they were able to achieve with a solution, with Data Vault, with Data Vault automation was just incredible. And I think a slide that really struck me, and I believe it's same for you, Falke, is that if you look at solutions that can really help you realize value, the analogy they made was if it can solve a very complex problem, but it can do it in a very simple way, let's say, that's where the real poetry is. And that was a slide I remembered until today. We had another speaker and I thought that was a really good comparison, who compared Data Vault to a data lake that is organized by key business concepts. I never explained it in that way, but if you look at it, that's exactly what it is. So it's a way to organize a lot of data, billions of rows or billions of records, in a way that is easy to load, right optimized like a data lake. But instead of just throwing everything into the lake, you still organize it, and you organize it according to the key concepts that you have in your business model. And we will talk a bit later on key business concepts and conceptual modeling, because we also did a few product announcements at VaultSpeed Next. One of them who is very much related to conceptual modeling and organizing your data, right? Yeah, this was a funny one. The only constant is change. I think we can all agree to that. We see in real life that customers using Vault methodology, that the use cases like mergers and acquisitions, changing core platforms, core systems like a core banking system or an ERP system that you need to migrate from an old one to a new one. All of these things are changes, and if Data Vault is good at one thing, it is at coping with all these kinds of different change. So it can be a change on the business level, can be a change on the technology level, it can be just a quarterly release of your Salesforce system, but all these things incur change into your data platform, and you need to find a way to cope with all these things. Data Vault is a very good answer to all those challenges. And then in the final presentation, there was one by MIT. I think when he showed the slide of his data mess and the two kids eating the spaghettis or the pipelines, everyone enjoyed it. But what I particularly learned from Gilles is that he had a few key lessons from his journey with Data Vault, because he had been doing Data Vault for quite a bit of time. Also invested in building his own automation framework around it before they started using VaultSpeed. And I think, yeah, where I fully agree with him is that indeed, if you don't have a good process around the Data Vault and around the way in which you release it, doing release management, keeping it in sync with the reality that lives in your systems, then it's very hard to do a Data Vault project right. Where I agree a bit less is, yeah, 95% of the DV effort is not in the data pipeline. I would say yes if you use automation. But I think what he's trying to say is that you should really invest time in modeling your Data Vault the right way, using that top-down approach. Because if you don't do that, your problems will get bigger and you will not have a satisfactory result. So model first, and then the pipelines, especially with an automation solution like ours, is something that flows from that model. You don't need a lot of creativity there then. Okay, so those were my highlights. I don't know, Falke, if you had any things to add, any highlights of yours.
Yeah, so well, similar as the ones that you pointed out, the quote that Gilles used after the event that resonated with me is that by using the Data Vault methodology and the automation platform, is that you can support a morphing architecture without having to continuously rebuild your data pipelines. So, and that morphing built for change, be it from a technical or a business perspective, is more important than ever if you want to achieve that time to market and deliver. So thank you, Jid, if you're on the call, for that quote. I use it a lot. It summarizes it very beautiful.
Yeah, fully agree. Morphing and also living, I would say. A Data Vault is not something you build once, you build it all the time. You need to keep it in sync. And yeah, I think the way you could look at it is if you have all these hubs, links, and satellites, and uh, they are there, that they will not always stay relevant. If you have, for example, a migration of an ERP system, we had a few examples of customers doing SAP migrations from the older ECC systems to the SAP HANA system. This is what you would see then, is that if you would have a satellite coming from the old system, it would be very relevant as long as that old system is the one that people are really using within the organization. But once you're starting the migration, it will slowly become less relevant. The new data from that source will dry out literally. And then as the new S/4HANA system becomes more apparent, more invested in, well, that will be the new source of truth for everything that is related to the ERP system. So it's really a living model, and it's also for that reason that it needs to be very maintainable, um, with a model-driven approach like ours, and with a solution that can automate a lot of the deployment and the delivery, and that's why the release management is so important. You can really do that. You can keep everything in sync and have the data vault there for the long run. I think what Falke promised in the beginning, and what a lot of people are maybe here for, is a demo of what comes next. So we announced a few product releases at VaultSpeed Next, and there's actually two main ones that I'd like to highlight. The first one is our VaultSpeed Canvas. VaultSpeed Canvas is a product that we have been looking at building for a long time. Why? Because it entails a completely new part of VaultSpeed that we would put in front of the process that we had in place before. And it entails really taking it from the top-down level, the conceptual level. And that's how you should always tackle a data vault project, by the way, using a conceptual model as the blueprint for what comes next. But if you build software, you have to start somewhere. So this was something that we always advised, but it was not a full comprehensive part of the VaultSpeed product yet, and that's going to change very soon, because we are already trying with the first customers that are working with the first new versions of VaultSpeed Canvas to start building their conceptual model. So without further ado, I will just show you guys what that is all about. Checking if I'm still connected. Yes, I am. So I had prepared an empty insurance model right here. So there's nothing on the screen yet. The idea of VaultSpeed Canvas is basically that you can start modeling conceptually. So I could add a new concept here. I could give it a name. I could enter descriptions and stuff. But the main thing we want to do with VaultSpeed Canvas is make it easier to do conceptual modeling. We don't want to replace any existing processes. That doesn't need to happen. But what is important is that we want to shorten the feedback loop between the conceptual, or a discussion on what the conceptual model is about, what the business processes are, these discussions and the feedback that the business owner or the process owner then gets from the business analyst or the data modeler. Sometimes these feedback loops can be quite long, and we want to try to shorten that with VaultSpeed. And that's why we added an AI assistant in our VaultSpeed Canvas that can actually use the context of a conversation that you had over a meeting, the audio or the video file, or the transcript of that meeting, an image, a photo of a whiteboard after you did some whiteboarding sessions on the business processes at your organization, or even a recording of something that I could start recording right here, right now. So let me go for this transcript option. So this is a meeting I had. Or is it? I think I should do this one. So this is a file that has a full transcript of a session between business process owner and the business analyst or the data modeler. And actually what the AI assistant is going to do now, it's going to feed the transcript into an LLM. And with that transcript will also be there will also be a system prompt, and that system prompt is trained to in a nutshell, extract two things from the transcript. It will be the nouns. It's going to listen for the nouns. Those will become entities in my conceptual model. And it will also listen for the verbs, because those can be then the suggested relationships for my conceptual data model. And you will see, for example, here, It's a discussion on an insurance process. There will be customers, brokers, commissions, policies, and so on, and the relationships between those. So if I'm happy with what it extracted from my transcript, I can add those to my modeling canvas, and I can play a bit with the layout. Maybe this is good. Let's have a look, organize it a little bit. So what you see right away is that there is immediate feedback, right? So I can immediately show to while I'm having the discussion or the next day or a few hours later what this model looks like. A customer or a policy is purchased by a customer. A customer buys from a broker. So all these things are important within the organization. So that's the process that we want to add. Or what the component of the process that we want to add before you actually start modeling the data vault itself. And it's a very important component. Okay. In the next section, of course, you need two inputs. You need your conceptual data models, but you also need the technical definition of what a source looks like. So we still have a need for example, a policy system, right? That's a system that we want to integrate into our data platform. So in VaultSpeed, you have to enable VaultSpeed and explain to VaultSpeed what that system looks like from a technical perspective. And by technical, I mean all the metadata we can harvest from how the data is organized in that system, we can use to help build out the data model for the data vault for the silver layer. So here I have policies, commissions, brokers. They all touch upon some of the entities that we modeled in our conceptual model. And what I can do here is I can explain to VaultSpeed what the foreign keys are, primary keys are. I can also give it an indication of the business key that I would like to use for this particular source. And I can also define some more technical components like what kind of CDC solution do I have in place? Or do I even have a CDC solution? Huh? Do I need to do a full load? Do I need to do the delete management myself? So based on that input, which is a completely different angle, it's more the technical angle. VaultSpeed can also help derive a data vault model altogether. And if you've done those two steps, first build the conceptual model and then onboard all the sources that you want to integrate from the more technical perspective, you can actually start building your data vault. There's obviously a lot of version management in the data vault, but a data vault that you then model will look a bit like this, right? And just if I zoom a bit out, yeah, you should recognize some of the concepts we've modeled in our conceptual modeler, like the commissions, the brokers, the policies, the customers, the contracts. They are all in here. The hubs are actually the entities in a data vault that represent those key business concepts. The links are the ones that capture the relationships between them. So if you just look at those two entity types, hubs and links, you see the blueprint of the conceptual model represented right here. That's how it should be. And then every source that contains data about one of these concepts, I have data coming from my policy system for contracts, but also from my CRM system. I have customer data coming from 3 different systems, so they all get a satellite for my customer hub. And that's how this data vault model starts living. If I would add a new core system that contains data about policies and I want to phase out the old one, well, that will just be a new satellite coming from the new system. And this original satellite might just become a little bit less important when it comes to where do I find the latest data, where do I find the new data. So that's how you can build a silver layer model very easily and how it can still reflect your core business processes. Okay, so that's in a nutshell the announcement on VaultSpeed Canvas. So adding conceptual modeling into the equation to build even better data vault models, even more maintainable data vault models, and also data vault models that are more aligned to your core business processes. By doing that, you automatically prepare yourself better for the gold layer because, and maybe I can show it on this slide. If a silver layer is modeled out very well, if you can recognize these key business concepts, it becomes way easier to design data marts, whichever form of them. It could be a star schema, could be a flat table, could be time series data, could be a knowledge graph. But if the data in your silver layer is organized well, if it's organized according to a conceptual model blueprint, then it's way easier to derive all your data products into the gold layer. Okay. And that also brings us to the next part of our session, because the second announcement we did back in September was VaultSpeed Studio. Now, VaultSpeed Studio is a product component that we've been working on for a while now. This one is actually really close to making it to GA. So this is already in a beta program that we have been running for quite some months already, with a lot of customers helping us provide feedback. So we're very close to releasing VaultSpeed Studio into GA. And I'm happy to also show you a few things that weren't even there last September when we announced this first at VaultSpeed Next. So going to VaultSpeed again. VaultSpeed Studio will also become just a part of the key main menu. And this is a bit what it looks like, right? So VaultSpeed Studio is a solution that can help you build transformations in your gold layer. An example that I have here is, for example, the amount of policies by broker. This is a mapping that I created in VaultSpeed Studio. It understands, of course, all the metadata of the data vault that we had built, that data vault that I built in the previous demo, where I'm first joining all the data from brokers. I'm linking it to policy data. Here you have the satellite and the hub for policies. Joining it all together, filtering out the active policies, and then making an aggregation that can help me calculate the amount of active policies that I have for a certain broker, right? And that's something I could load into a data mart, ready for consumption in, I don't know, a Power BI or something similar. Now, that's something that we have been. So this component of VaultSpeed Studio has been around since early June, let's say. So customers have been playing around with it quite a lot. But we added, for example, a few components on top of it. There's a full version history on these mappings available now. You can also run a preview of the code that it will generate. So in this case, it's a Databricks mapping. So it will generate Databricks code, and this can automatically also be deployed into your Databricks environment. So that's all available. And obviously, what we want to do, what you want to do next is, if you have a bunch of these mappings created, I have quite a few here, you want to go into the next step, and that is organizing these mappings into what we call a pipeline. So if we zoom in a little bit here, you can see that I have created a pipeline, and this is a way to organize the sequence in which all my mappings will be loaded. So we have organized our pipeline for calculations that I want to do on brokers. So I want to calculate the amount of commissions that we are paying per broker, the amount of claims that are coming in for every single broker, and the one we just showed you, the policies that we have per broker. I want to have all these mappings loaded, and then I want to load it into a consolidated fact mapping. That's another one I have built. And obviously, if the full pipeline is successful, I want to notify someone by email that there is a successful run. Or if there is one of these components that fails, I want to send a failure email notification. So that's something that we added into Template Studio very recently. This thing will automatically generate a DAG, direct acyclical graph, into Apache Airflow. But there's also a generic version that you could use to consume or to deploy this DAG into any other scheduling solution that you have available. So if you have Dagster, or if you are using Snowflake tasks, Databricks tasks, everything can work, right? So the goal is that you have a visual way to link these mappings logically so that you can load them in the right order and deploy that into your preferred runtime solution. There's versioning on this one as well, so you can have a look at older versions. You can create new ones quite easily. So if I want to create, no, I have created one here, so I can commit this mapping, or I can create another version for it. It's quite easy to do. All right, and then another thing that we have been working on is also an assistant that can actually help you to build these transformation mappings even faster. So a lot of new stuff that has been made available in Template Studio. The goal is to release it in GA before the end of the year. I think the only thing that we are still going to add into it is a form of deployment packages, so that people can organize whatever deployment package or release package that they want to build, so that you can manage in quite an intuitive way how to get everything that you've built in Template Studio packaged and ready to deploy into your CI/CD pipeline. All right. So that concludes the two demos. So we had VaultSpeed Canvas, VaultSpeed Studio, and I would say we can open it up for an interactive Q&A session.
So thanks, Jonas, for delivering again the demos. If I'm not mistaken, we also have Peter on the call. I don't know, Peter, if you're in a situation to come on the microphone. It's almost it's more than a month ago. So if you have any findings and learnings, we also presented. Anything you want to add, Peter?
Really excited about the new features that we're seeing. Jonas's presentation's just getting me all sorts of riled up about what we're going to be able to do next.
Thank you.
There's one question here. What targets does VaultSpeed support?
Actually, VaultSpeed supports quite a few platforms. I think the key ones, let's say tier one platforms, are Databricks, Snowflake. We also have, for example, Microsoft Fabric, which is very important, Google BigQuery, and Amazon Redshift. So the key cloud platforms are all supported. We do have support for a few others as well. So please reach out to us if you have any questions regarding that. For Template Studio, the goal is obviously to support all these platforms as well. But the first product drop that we will do before the end of this year will focus on Snowflake and Databricks. But the support for Microsoft Fabric and Google BigQuery is due to follow suit very, very fast after that. So that will be early next year.
So maybe building on that, so I shared, Andy, I don't know if you can promote our technology support matrix. So if the attendees want to click the link, they can see. What I wanted to add to Jonas's question or answer is that the portability is something that is very key for VaultSpeed. So our founders too wanted to enable anyone to have freedom of choice on what target technology they wanted to deploy. And we have a few customers in Europe and the US that already have demonstrated this portability from one platform to another. So this openness is key, and we support many, and the link, we will share it either in the chat or later on. That's it.
And with that, I think we'll wrap things up. Want to thank Falca, Jonas, and special surprise guest here at the end, Peter, for sharing their thoughts on VaultSpeed and the highlights from the next conference that was held in Boston back in September. And look forward to seeing a lot of you at the next events in 2026. We'll keep you informed about when and where those are going to be held in the US and Europe. So thanks again for everybody for joining us today.
Thank you all. Have a great
Thank you.